Can you unmute yourself, Dr. Afshana, if you can please check? Actually, I can make you a host. That way you can make you co-hosts.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Yes. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslim kathira sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. Jazakumullahu khairan for joining us today. Our second session on the series Salam Ramadan, Let Us Succeed Together. Today, alhamdulillah, we're joined by our esteemed guest, Dr. Afshana. Jazakallahu khairan for joining us. Alhamdulillah. Of course, our esteemed Sheikh Mamdouh, and myself, which is your brother Hassan, alhamdulillah. And today's topic is the topic of traps of Shaytan and psychology of addictions, and how we can extract cure from psychology, which is Dr. Afshana, and understanding addictions also from Islamic cures, and the ultimate battle with Shaytan that we have, which is one of the cures or the tools that scholars have put forth, alhamdulillah, when it comes to addictions, minor addictions. Of course, there are addictions that we will talk about different categories of them. And we'll start with the beginning of, we'll start with the traps of Shaitan with Sheikh Mamdouh, and we'll then proceed. And if you have any questions, definitely on Facebook, let us know, or Zoom. You have two venues to definitely ask questions, but we'll try to keep it as short as possible so we can open up to questions right after. So the first topic is going to be traps of Shaitan with Sheikh Mamdouh, especially right before Ramadan, what we should be aware of. And Sheikh, now please lead us.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I'm again pleased and honored to be in this panel, and I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Afshana. Jazakallah khairan. And this is our effort at Masjid al-Salam to always connect the dots together. We are all about that at Masjid al-Salam. Brother Hassan, myself, all the team of Masjid al-Salam, administrative and educational, we're trying to put the dots together. Our religion covers all our the aspects of all our lives. So the knowledge has to also cover all aspects of all our lives. If the deen responds and answers all our needs, we're supposed to also cover from all aspects: psychological, emotional, physical, spiritual, all of them. Otherwise, we will not be doing justice to our community. So alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we are on that path, and we are trying our best, inshallah, to do that. Traps of Shaitan. First, you have to know who's the Shaitan. Shaitan is our enemy. Shaitan is the first creature of Allah in the heavens who disobeyed Allah Azza wa Jal. Disobedience based on hasad, based on jealousy. And jealousy is a very negative feeling in our hearts. It comes or stems from our insecurity about ourselves, like we are not satisfied with what we achieved. We look also to somebody who achieved something that maybe we look at it as something better, not necessarily, or something that you need, not necessarily, but Shaitan makes it like that. Because out of his sin of being jealous from Adam and thinking that it is who's better than who, he fell into that trap. So he wants to all of us to come from, fell in the same trap. So will not make you satisfied with what you have, and will try to get you somewhere else that you are not supposed to be. But how he's going to do that? By making it decorated, by making it attractive. Okay, so it is like somebody selling you something very, very cheap or something very bad for your health, but he's putting it in a nice wrap, putting a nice store, putting a nice salesperson, putting a nice sales, words and all of that. But then you end up with what? With a loss. After all of that, then you go and you try it at home. You don't find what you were promised, and that is exactly what the Shaitan will do. He will take you from what is good for you, makes it look bad, feel bad, hard, tight, and take you to somewhere which is bad, but he will make it look so good, so happy, so pleasurous, all of that kind of thing. And then when you are there, it is too late when you discover already. Then Shaitan said, I did not do anything. I just invited you and you came. So that's basically a summary of who's Shaitan and what is the trap of a shaitan, right? So Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, he made a book. He made a book, 2 volumes in Arabic. I don't know if it's translated in English or not, but he's saying إغاثة اللهفان في مصايد الشيطان. إغاثة اللهفان في مصايد الشيطان means it is the help or the support to the person who is in need from the traps of shaitan. So like somebody is already in the traps of shaitan, and Imam al-Qayyim is giving you the solution how you are going to get out of it. And that book is about 1,300 pages. So he's saying that how the traps of shaitan, one after the other, very, very attractive and all of that. As the brother Hassan, if you remember, last session we were talking about that how the shaitan will not take you from iman to shirk suddenly. Remember that? He will not do that. He will not till you become mushrik. Yeah.
Levels, yes.
But,
He will
he will see where you're
can,
living.
right?
Exactly. So I like hunting. I go hunting. You cannot hunt with the same method and the same ammunition and the same strategy every single game. You agree with that or not?
No, yes, we can't.
Yes. So the trap has to be made according to what? Many things. Like who's setting the trap? Why are you setting the trap? For what are you setting the trap? And what you want the trap to do? Yes? So
Right.
that's basically, big deal. So I put a trap, I want to get a rabbit. A bear is not going to be in that trap. But if I put a trap for the bear, it has to have certain characteristics, right? And then when a bear comes there, I know how to deal with it. If it catches something lesser, I don't like. And that's why the hadith of Rasulullah says that Shaytan sends all his shayateen, and when they come and they said, I made him kill this person, he said, this is not, But when he said that I made him commit adultery, no, I made him commit, this is a game. He caught something, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking to destroy some concept, some institution. So when I tell him I made the husband and wife separate from each other, I said, yes, you are the one. That is what the trap needs to be for. So you have to be based. How then comes the question, or the question begs itself here, like, how can I understand that I have a trap of shaitan? You have to know what you are required to do first. What you want to, what you want to know. If I do not know enough about Allah Azza wa Jal, then I do not know the landscape. Then I can be trapped in aqidah. We're following here. So if I do not know enough about my salah, is there a bigger possibility to do mistakes or not?
There is.
Exactly. So if I do not know my relationship with my spouse, there is a trap there because you do not know the landscape. How are you going to hike in a place that you do not know? You're going to sprain your ankle. You can break your neck. It depends, because you do not know. So that's why you have to do your research before to avoid the traps of shaitan. You have to know that this place has traps. That's number one. Number two, do I need to be in this place or not? If the answer is not, no problem, avoid it. If you have to be in that place or you need that relationship, then you have to know the ins and outs. And you have to know, why Allah Azza wa Jal said what He said. So that's the important part, Brother Hassan. So please ask me if you need any more, and then I can tell you. But that's normally the traps of shaitan. The trap of shaitan is getting you from where you should be to where you should not be. But how he's going to do that? Make where you should be, make you think that this is not what you need. That one is what you need, right? And to do that, he will make you hate what you have and long for what you don't have.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. So the solution for that, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, you maybe dislike something, but it's for your own good. And maybe you like something that is your own demise. So the solution here is you have to see what Allah wants you to be, where Allah wants you to be, and be that to avoid.
Jazakumullah khairan. So what I would request more on that same subject. One, I think this is actually something in our culture too. The biggest trick of shaitan, or biggest trick of devil, as they say, is that the illusion that he doesn't exist. And many of the time we have a conversation with someone else and it says, you know what, we don't blame Shaytan, but he is there. And I have actually dealt with someone in my life where they were doing something. It was wrong and it was destroying a lot of the people around him. But subhanAllah, his response was, do not say it's Shaytan. Like he literally bar Shaytan out of the picture.
Okay.
And at that time you have, right. And at that time and I think this is something we have to recognize also, that there is this force that has nothing else to do in his life except to take us to hellfire. Out of the hatred he has against us, which you said, the hasad, jealousy, hatred that has now become from jealousy, his pride and everything else, that has converted to now hatred for us. And now that he has no other plans for us against us except take us to hellfire, even though he himself will go to hellfire, but he doesn't care about that. He cares about that we are in hellfire. So of this idea that the Shaitan exists, one of the biggest, which you mentioned already, and we want to highlight it before we move to Sister Dr. Afshana, is the biggest trap of Shaitan to be aware right now is that he will influence some type of change, some catalyst, something will happen which will spark this chain of events which we will carry into Ramadan. That means we were okay as brothers, something will happen, there will be an argument that we never cared about, we will care about, and then the entire Ramadan will be fighting with each other.
I agree, Brother Hassan, but I agree, but what is the issue here? That brother, you'll be surprised, who said don't blame Shaitan. He's right and wrong. Don't blame Shaitan for everything. Let me summarize a lot of research and debate among the scholars. Are you with me, Brother Hassan? Because
yes.
I think I was frozen for a little bit. But anyways, the Shaitan is a good salesman, but he cannot force you to buy the product. Make sense?
Right.
So his job is to do his best for you to sign. But who signs? Who holds the pen and sign? You.
We ourselves, yes.
Yeah. So he will not hold your hand to do. He will not open your eye or close it. He will not push you from behind. He will not hold you in an arm bar to do that. He will not do any of that. Right? وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ. I only invited you. فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. So you responded to me. So he is right, and don't blame Shaitan for the action itself, but blame the Shaitan that you allowed him by listening. Like if you go to the dealership, and I don't want to say the dealership is the place of Shaitan, I'm not saying that. If you go to the dealership, the first thing that the salesperson, does not want you to leave without a car, right? So he will die for that. So that's exactly how it is done. How it is done. So Shaitan is not going to do. That's why many of the scholars said, if you find that you are jumping from one sin to the other, like you want to do a sin, but then you change and you want to do another sin, that's the work of Shaitan. Because Shaitan wants you to sin, period. But he's trying to get you somewhere. But if you find that you insisting on a certain sin, that's you. Shaitan has nothing to do with that. So like when you find that, I want to do that thing, until you do that thing, that's you, all you. And the nafs al-ammaratum bisu, Shaitan does not have to do it. Why does he put effort to somebody who's already there?
Right.
Okay?
The nafs do get weaker though.
Huh?
The nafs do get weaker, which is now we're getting the addiction one. Nafs do get weaker, right? Because let's say you fall into the trap once, twice, at one point, either, which is we're going to talk about, is the ultimate battle. But then we do end up sometime failing it so many times that our iman, our nafs al-amara and nafs al-lawama and all those souls that are in the constant battle, they unable to liberate you from the trap itself. Then you don't need to be pushed as much. Shaitan doesn't have to do that much work.
Right. That's why I want to hear from Dr. Afshana on the psychological aspect, so I can actually.
So we're coming to it now. So Dr. Afshana, it's a great transition. So Dr. Afshana, this is your, please, we had a topic which is the psychology of addictions and the prophetic cures. Please give us more into this, the window of addictions that from science, from psychology, and also how we can, leverage Sheikh's knowledge to get to the cures, inshallah.
Absolutely. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much for having me here. I love this topic. I'm actually teaching an addiction treatments course this semester, so it's very fresh on my mind. But yeah, when you talk about that aspect of repeatedly falling into sin and then eventually people feel trapped, that also I think goes hand in hand with Shaytan making us feel hopeless of the mercy of Allah. And when we don't have that hope in Allah, that's a huge part of Shaytan telling us, you're so bad, why are you going to turn to Allah now? You don't deserve that mercy. And I think, inshallah, the month of Ramadan is a reminder of Allah's mercy, and I'll talk about that a little bit in my talk, inshallah. So when we think of addictions, we usually think of drugs, alcohol, heroin, crystal meth, something that might be far removed from our own realities, and something that happens to other people. But today I want you to think about your own lives and think about the things that you do that you know that you shouldn't be doing, but you still do anyways. For example, spending hours after hours on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, WhatsApp, for starters. Then there's binge watching Netflix, Hulu, what else is there? Amazon Prime. Or perhaps your guilty pleasure is reaching for that third donut, or downing a whole pint of ice cream when you're stressed. How about online shopping? Have you heard of retail therapy, right? When people are stressed, they go to Amazon, and this is men and women. This is not just, my husband has a whole list of all the things that he wants on his list.
You cannot do that online now, which is so dangerous.
Sure, absolutely. So now let's veer a little bit away from guilty pleasures and talk about the activities that we engage in that we think are good for us. For example, constantly checking email, working 16, 18 hours a day, bringing work home. All of these can qualify as addiction. So you might be saying, yeah, Dr. Hawk, but you surely can't be comparing scrolling Instagram to shooting up heroin. So yes, absolutely, there's a difference, especially in the legal sense. But I wanted to establish a very clear definition of what addiction is from, I guess, an academic standpoint. So addiction is defined as a condition of being habitually or compulsively occupied with or involved in something. So number one, something that is done regularly, repeatedly, and habitually. Number two, there's a compulsive quality. So you know how sometimes you'll turn on your phone and you're really trying to make a phone call, but you just kind of go into this other app and you don't even realize that you did it. So that's that subconscious, the compulsive quality of it. And it's beyond the individual's conscious control. And finally, it doesn't necessarily involve a drug. So from an Islamic perspective, I'm going to keep it very simple. It's that which you're enslaved to besides Allah. So say that again. So that which you are enslaved to besides Allah. So let's compare the two. For example, think about the quality of your ibadah and imagine if it was as consistent as the time you spent on your phone. Or the efforts you make to please your boss, is it equal to the efforts that you make to please your Lord? He who actually provides our sustenance. I want to make clear that I'm not anti-phone or anti-hard work. These are probably like my addictions, so I'm going to talk about them more. But after you spend time reflecting on your own addictions or the potential addictions in your life, whether it's legal or illegal, figure out which one you'd like to get rid of, or at least the kind of balance that you want to bring into your life. And I'd imagine if you're in the audience and you're attending this talk, then the ideal balance that you're looking for is what the Prophet ﷺ prescribed to us: 1/3 work, 1/3 pleasure/family, and then 1/3 worship. As human beings, our lives, so our nafs, or perhaps the consistent waswasa of Shaytan, naturally veers us towards a shift in balance towards the worldly and bodily pleasures. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, he created us this way. So who better to provide us the remedy for this constant pull than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself? Empirical research has shown that access to the outer cortices of the brain, so like the prefrontal cortex, the gray matter, it gives us the best chances to overcome any addiction or any challenges that we may face. How do we gain access to those regions? Well, through practicing mindfulness and being in a meditative state. They did the study in Harvard. They had the participants do meditation or mindfulness exercises. Very simple, just kind of focus on the present for 10 minutes a day. And they did this for several weeks, maybe for about a month or two. I can't remember exactly, maybe 6 weeks. And they found that the gray matter, the density of your of those regions had increased. And when there's density in those regions of the brain, it means that you can utilize that more. You can, it's more effective, more efficient. And so this is such a short period of time. And so what does Allah prescribe to us 5 times a day? Salah, right? And if we're doing salah correctly, if we're in that state of khushu', this is very synonymous to being in a meditative state. And we're in that meditative state. So you can see our lives is this constant pull between our nafs and then towards salah, right? Being salah pulling us into this meditative state and then our nafs pulling us away. So salah improves the ability of our brains to function at a higher level so that we have better control over our nafs. And we need to do this 5 times a day, you know, because again, Allah knows what we're like, what our inclinations are, and what Shaytan is out there to do. So if we utilize the month of Ramadan in the best way, it can be one of the best antidotes for our spiritual ailments. If you look at addiction treatment in an academic sense, the most successful treatment regimens involve the following elements. So number 1, there's a detox period and a period of abstinence. There's case management, community support, helping the person develop a sense of purpose, improving physical health and nutrition, providing hope, developing sufficient coping skills, and establishing a spiritual connection. And again, this is purely academic. When you study addiction carefully, you realize that it's actually a disease of the spirit. If the spirit is not whole, we will inevitably fill that void with something else. So take advantage of this month, of the month of Ramadan, and mend your spirit and strengthen your connection with Allah, because this will be your greatest protection against any type of addiction or enslavement to other than Allah. So let's talk about how Ramadan is similar to traditional addiction treatment. For one, with fasting, we're going through a physical and a spiritual detox of our addiction, right? Physically, we detox from all desires of the flesh, food, water, sex, all things that increase our dopamine levels. So I'm going to get a little neurobiological here. So what happens is addiction tampers with our reward circuitry in our brain. In a healthy system, this is what happens. So we're hungry and our body wants to make sure that we don't starve, so that when we do finally find good tasting food, to help us remember this and ensure our survival, our brain spikes our dopamine levels. It gives us this boost. It feels good. It enhances our memories. Sex, likes on social media, phone dings, does all the same thing. It taps into that same reward circuitry. So every time you get a ding, every time you get a like, you're getting that little boost of dopamine into your body. Junk foods and foods with processed sugars do the same thing. You know, what's that saying? Once you pop, you can't stop. Right. And what happens when you have this, you know, initially, let's say your baseline is here, but the more you're engaged, sort of what you guys were talking about earlier, the more you're involved in these activities, your baseline gets higher. So you need more spike of the dopamine in order to feel that same sort of rush or that same feeling. Talking about that, chasing that first high. Well, you know, let's say you have this really good experience at the restaurant, you know, you have the best biryani of your life, and then you keep going back to that restaurant, but it just doesn't taste the same, right? But you keep going back hoping that maybe it'll taste that fresh and that good again, right? So it's the same concept.
So fard prayer is not going to be enough, you know, fard prayer.
Right. You need that extra. You need the sunnah. You need the nawafil. So when you're fasting and when you're detoxing, what happens is it brings that baseline of the dopamine levels. It brings it down back to like normal ranges. So you're resetting that circuitry to normal levels. So spiritually, while we're starving ourselves in Ramadan physically, we're detoxing our bodies physically. We're actually spending our time nourishing our souls, right? So proper utilization of Ramadan gives us the opportunity to increase our gratitude towards Allah, right? We're starving and we're thinking about all the people who don't normally have food, but then we do. We're supposed to increase our time in salah, doing dhikr, and then we have better control over our anger, right? We're not supposed to be fighting during the month of Ramadan. So we're learning to moderate our emotions as well. When we do all of these different things, and this is based on research, gratitude, when you're in optimal arousal states, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, you are able to train your brain into staying in optimal level for still prolonged states of optimal arousal. And again, I'll talk about this a little bit later. So when it comes to addiction treatment, a lot of times the first thing we think of are mutual help groups. So I think the most famous kind are like AA groups, right? So why do alcoholics go to AA meetings? What does it do? They've even done research on it. It provides community support. You have like-minded individuals with similar values. You have unconditional acceptance. You have a support system. It fills your idle time with some sort of productivity. And it's a way to establish connection and accountability. And every Ramadan, I always think about this, and I can't notice how Tarawih does so much of the same thing, right? We have our own built-in mutual help group. So no matter who you are or where you're from, you have the opportunity to stand feet to feet, shoulder to shoulder with the entire Ummah for one sole purpose. So everybody there for the same goal. And even if they're not, at least it looks like you're from the outside, right? You get the connection with your community. You have that acceptance. You have that accountability, right? You can't be shooting up haram at the masjid. Sometimes a little bit too much, or you can't. It's a time where you put your phone down for a little bit and you focus on your ibadah. You focus on salah. And what better way to leave a habit or an addiction when your days are filled with fasting and your nights are filled with prayer? So there's not that much time for idle activity. And if you struggle financially, so we talked about case management being an important part of addiction treatment, right? Allah has built in case management with zakat and sadaqah. If you're involved in haram because you have difficulty fulfilling your basic needs, Allah provides a boost to help you get out, inshallah. Also, there's nothing more important in addiction treatment than for the therapist providing hope to her clients. And during the month of Ramadan, how many promises of acceptance of our du'as are we given? Before breaking fast, the last third of the night, the last 10 nights of Ramadan, Allah's promise of mercy, locking up Shaytan, and exponentially multiplying our good deeds. These are all ways to provide us hope. We talked a little bit about coping skills earlier as well, right? Controlling our anger, increasing gratitude, avoiding fights. They're all ways to help us remain in a place of calm. And this is when we can think our best. When we're in idle state of mind and emotional state, this is referred to as optimal arousal. So when you're not in the idle state, so let's say you're very reactive, people tend to be either super reactive or very unreactive. So there's hyper arousal when you just have a very short fuse, you get angry quickly. And then there's hypo arousal where people tend to shut down, right? If you get into a fight, one or the other spouse is either shutting down and the other one's screaming. So where we want to be is in the optimal state. And this is where we have access to the outer cortices that I was talking about earlier. In this state, we're able to problem solve, make decisions, focus, plan for the future. And we have the greatest access to our executive functioning portions of our brain. So when we're anxious and we feel out of control, and this is probably what's happening because of the pandemic to many of us, our bodies start searching for ways to maintain some sense of control, usually resorting to our addictions, because this gives us a nice little dose of dopamine that helps us relax and help us feel good and be like, okay, I've got this. But with the centered mind, like when we're in that state of optimal arousal, we'll have better control over our primal urges and partake in activities that will actually help us problem solve rather than make it worse. So to actually make better decisions rather than, for example, eating all of our quarantine snacks in one day, right? It provides a little bit of comfort, but that's not what's helping us. It's not what's going to help us solve our problems or relieve our anxieties. The best way to do some self-assessment and gain self-awareness about all the things that we've become enslaved to, whether it's physical, emotional, or psychological addictions, is to leave it for a few days, maybe a week, and monitor how you feel. If you start feeling a sense of anxiety, and you may feel that even like, let's say, turn off your phone for an hour. I think just the idea of turning off your phone may bring some anxiety to some people, right? But there used to be a time where we didn't have that kind of access to the phone, to internet, to people. So if you're finding yourself suffering in any way due to the absence of XYZ habit, then you know it's something that you need to get a better handle on. If it's something that's gotten in the way of your physical, emotional, or spiritual goals, for example, if you're scrolling through Instagram for 30 minutes rather than reading Quran on a daily basis during Ramadan for 30 minutes, then maybe that's another way to determine if this is something you need to spend a little bit of time detoxing from. And even if it's not something that you might be addicted to, if there's just a habit that you want to get rid of or reduce, use this time to do it. For example, idle phone time or idle screen time. And we may not have the blessings of Tarawih this year. Unfortunately, I know a lot of masjids are already deciding that it's not going to happen. That'll give us a little bit of extra time. And you use this time to recalibrate your life. Fill your time with dhikr, dua, Quran, salah, reestablishing your relationship with Allah. And remembering that this is also a time to help your community. So not just yourself, not just praying for yourself, right? We need to connect with our community and help them the best way you can. With quarantine, just focus on what you can do within your circle of influence. If you can do a Zoom talk, if you can organize a program, if you can raise money for a cause, that's phenomenal. But if all you can do is being kinder to the family that you're blessed with in quarantine, then do so. Your intention to please others and doing good is all that matters. And remember, no deed is seen as insignificant in the sight of Allah, and it will be multiplied 70-fold during the month of Ramadan. So the last thing I want to leave you with is please remember, if we're engaged in serving Allah and being enslaved only to Him, then our lives will be healthy and balanced, free of addictions. But if we are not a slave to Him, which is in our fitrah, then we will inevitably find something else to enslave our lives towards.
I have a few follow-up for you, Dr. Hassan, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
One, so habits, and Jazakallah khair for the notes and for the points that you made. I believe it was very clear for everybody, for us and for the audience. My question will be to be more specific on two parts. One, habits, right? Let's say we have a habit. In Ramadan, what would be some practical? Okay, when do you know when you need actual professional help and you can take care of yourself? Right? When is that? What's that difference? How do we differentiate that? Where we do need someone to help us and when we can do it ourselves?
Okay, so a couple things. Just like our physical bodies, prevention is better than cure. If you are able to take, I mean, even if you think about your cars, if you have regular tune-ups, if you take it to the mechanics, regularly, better ensure that your car functions well, that your bodies function well if you go to the doctor regularly. In the same way, if you have an inkling that there's something that needs to be helped, I think it's better to decide on the air of getting help. But if it's something that you feel like you can manage, that's fine. Self-help, reaching out to professionals for even just articles and resources to the masjid. But if it's something, and the way this is what we professionally try to define it as, when is somebody when do they warrant a diagnosis? When is it sort of normal problems, right? Is if it's causing problems in your work, your relationships, your physical health, if you're unable to fulfill any of the daily tasks that quote unquote normal people, or things that you want to be able to accomplish, then you know that, hey, maybe this has a bigger hold in me than I think it does. But this also depends on your context, right? So people who have a lot of support, maybe a lot more money, a lot more whatever, a lot more resources, they will probably have to face or they will be able to engage in whatever habit that they're in for a lot longer than somebody else who, let's say, they mess up once at work and then they're living paycheck to paycheck, then they lose their job. They're going to face the consequences a lot faster and perhaps get help a lot faster too. So really, I think the best place to start is taking the time to self-reflect. Prophet ﷺ would go to the cave, right? And he would reflect on himself. And nobody knows us better than ourselves. We can lie to other people, we can trick other people, we can put on a facade, but really we know ourselves, we know our hearts, we know what we're struggling with. And if you take a moment to, again, if you just leave the habit for a little bit, because a lot of times when we're at, this baseline and we need to be here, we don't realize it. So stop the activity in question, see what kind of effect or impact it has on your body. And then if you're able to abstain from it, alhamdulillah, then, that's great. And if you're able to moderate it, say, I have this goal, let me set this goal and let me see if I can stick to it. But if time after time you're failing, you're not meeting your goals, or it's affecting your, ask your family, ask the people who are closest to you. We are excellent critics of other people, right? Not very good critics of ourselves sometimes, but other people, sometimes they can have a good, they can give you people that you trust, of course. I don't want anybody in any sort of abusive situations, but people that you trust, a good friend, family that you trust, be like, hey, I think I may have a problem with this. What do you think? That will definitely help as well. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, Jazakallah khair. Any question if somebody has on either Zoom or Facebook, please post it and we can ask Dr. Afshana or for Sheikh Mamdouh.
Yeah, brother Hassan, I want to comment on that. central, I don't know what Dr. Afshana calls
prefrontal cortex. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. In the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal always talk about nasiyah. Nasiyah. Nasiyah is the front of the head that used to be like shaved when a person is enslaved. When they're enslaved, they shave that part. And they, when you hold someone from here, they kind of go behind you. Like this is even the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to say, nasiyati biyadik. Yani my nasiyah is in your hand. It's not in the hand of anyone else. So that's basically, you made it, mashallah, very nice when you said that you are addicted, you are enslaved to other than Allah. So if you leave that part to be controlled, and it is the center of your thinking, your job or your lusts or your desires or your carnal needs and all of that, then you're going to become behind that. But you need to go there. But I wanted to ask a question here. What is the difference between addiction and habit? Because, I cannot, the word addiction has a negative connotation, right? So if I'm reading Quran every single day, can I say I'm addicted to reading Quran?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's positive addicted. People can be addicted to exercise, right?
Okay.
But I guess it becomes, when does addiction become a problem, I guess is the question. And again, always the same. If you're exercising and it's cutting into your work time, your family time, your relationships, if you're losing weight to the extent where it's not healthy or your body fat percentage isn't in balance to what you're supposed to have, then it becomes a problem.
Right. So
Extreme,
basically,
I guess.
Yeah, do whatever with balance.
Right.
Balance.
Exactly.
Balance.
Yeah, and that's part of Islam too. People ask me all the time, oh, when you're in psychology, does that make you doubt Islam? I was like, no, absolutely not. I feel like I have a better understanding of Islam and things make more sense to me. So yeah, alhamdulillah.
So we'll now move to our next topic of today, which will be something you alluded to as well, Dr. Hassan, which is the du'as, important du'a and zakah, in terms of going through this. And I think, Shaytan, this is coming to Ramadan. There's no better time. I mean, you can ask now and Allah will hear. Of course, there's no difference. But the coming to Ramadan, there is the virtue of Ramadan, and there's the special. Ramadan is Ramadan. So, what are a few of those du'as that we can utilize in our lives from prophetic narration and others that we can find, inshallah, to combat from Shaytan himself, right? And that, of course, is the story of Iblis when a Sahabi was riding a camel and the camel got down and he got hurt and he blamed Shaytan for him. So someone said, instead say Basmallah, and because it makes Shaytan atom size and such. And those type of narrations, please share with us what we can utilize in our lives, inshallah, to combat Shaytan and also the addictions that we have, good or bad.
Good, mashallah. First, you have to know who's going to help you against Shaytan. It is Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? So, repeating the words of Tawheed, لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. This is one of the dua, because you are recognizing now who's going to save you from the Shaytan. You want to be saved from the Shaytan, then you have to go to Allah Azza wa Jal. Number two, you have to seek refuge in Allah from the Shaytan. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامة من كل شيطان وهم. I seek refuge in Allah and His words, perfect words, from every shaitan and from every animal, from every insect, from every virus, from everything. So again, you have to recognize your relationship with Allah, La ilaha illallah. Then you ask Allah refuge, and then you ask Allah to protect you from shaitan. And then you make the dua, what you want and what you do not want. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whenever the Ramadan comes, that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he sees the hilal of Ramadan, the hilal, the big deal we have according to Muslim, the hilal, the moon, and we forget, the importance and significance of it. But anyway, when he sees the hilal of Ramadan, he says, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. First thing. Allahumma ahillahu, Allah is the greatest. Allahumma ahillahu alayna, oh Allah, make this hilal a beginning of bil-amni wal-imani, safety and faith. Was-salamati wal-islami. See, salama is to be safe. Al-amn, safety, but a state of being safe, but السلامة a state of avoidance of problem. You know, there are two things here. Safety, that you are not exposed to anything wrong, and the safety that you are saved from something imminent. Okay? So when you said السلامة, when you come from travel, we say Alhamdulillah ala السلامة. Praise be to Allah who saved you. Means you were, while you are traveling, you are exposed to imminent threats, right? But when I say I'm in a state of amn, I am staying at my home, you know. I did not open the door. So I'm that kind of safety. So Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is asking for both safety. Al-amn wal-iman wal-salama wal-islam. Then he said, Rabbi wa Rabbuk Allah. My Lord and your Lord. He's talking to the moon. Wa Rabbuk Allah. Also, whenever you make dua of Ramadan, the niyyah, you are asking Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive you and accept everything from you. So there are also the dua that we talked about. I alluded to it, that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said there is no believer who has sadness from the past, or who have the stress in the present, or who have worry and anxiety about the future, and says, so you have those three or one of them. You are sad about something you lost, you are not happy with something that you're currently in, or you are worried about something that's going to happen, except you say that dua, Oh Allah, I am your slave, inni abduka, وابن عبدك وابن أمتك, and my parents are your slaves, up to Adam يعني. ناصيتي بيدك, my forelock or my frontal head, you know, is in your hand. ماض في حكمك, your ruling is above me. عدل في قضاءك, everything you do is just. Oh Allah, I ask you with every name that you have, you revealed it, or you taught it to someone, or you kept it to yourself, to make the Quran the spring or the rain on my heart, and the erasing of all my worries, and make it light for me. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, whoever say that, Allah will replace their sadness, their worry, and their stress with happiness and comfort. So also, yeah, of course, I have to, as Dr. Afshana said, there have to be two things, spiritual and actual physical steps. You go to a meeting, you need support, you need to talk, you need advice, that's the physical interaction. But there is something internal, which is the motivator, it's like this is the locomotive, that is going to push you, and everything else comes after. There is intrinsic motivation, there is extrinsic motivation. So those are the dua. But I advise my brothers and sisters to do two things in Ramadan. One is to do the dua of the morning, the dua that we do before sunrise, and the dua of sunset. And at night, as said, Aisha asked Rasulullah, what is the one dua that I need to do in Ramadan? The one dua I need to do in Ramadan. He told her, Allahumma innaka afuwun, ghafurun, halimun, tuhibbul af, fa'fu anni. Ya Allah, you are afuwun, ghafurun, halimun. Halim means patient. Ghafur, Brother Hassan, is the one who forgives. But afuwun is the one who erases. So erase without any remainder. So sometimes you are forgiven, but it is in your record. It is in your record. The points are in your record, driving record. But you're forgiven. But this one here, it's erased. Like they tell you after 3-4 years, you're a good driver, it's erased. Your record is clean. So Allah is, Ya Allah, you are the one who cleans the records. You are the one who forgives the sins. You are the one who is patient. Fa'afu anni, and you love to forgive, so please forgive me. If Allah forgives you, why you stay in a state of addiction? If Allah Azza wa Jal erase all this from you, that means He already accepted, means He loves you. He will not leave you to your lusts, because you already admitted that you are His slave.
Right.
Yeah.
Jazakumullah khairan. There are some points that came to my mind at this point. One, when we were going through our education of Islam, one of our teachers used to tell us how we are, animals, human beings itself are animals at times, but we're chained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as these. Because if it wasn't for that, how people are, how the desires take over, and the lust, and the people when they go in extreme. Because human beings have this beautiful tendency of taking things to extreme for no apparent reason. And this is something we see all the time, and you see worse and worse. And when you want to get creative, you'll find ways. And if it's for good, great. If it's not for good, you'll also find ways. And the fahsha that is outside today, the evil, the industry, I mean, the pornography and this and that, the alcohol and such, it's crazy to see. And this getting more, people have nothing else to do but find ways to destroy people's life. And being connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such an important pillar, to a point, subhanAllah, jazakallah khair for sharing the videos that you do on Facebook after Fajr about du'as and such. This is such a lost habit, such a lost sunnah. I remember went to Umrah in 2014. I remember this is 2014 Umrah. Of course, alhamdulillah, a lot of other experience happened, but that was the first time this theory was actually tested. So we're making tawaf, and those who've been now in Makkah, and you see the Kaaba and the tawaf, and at those peak hours, people are shoving you from left and right.
Mm.
And those in America, we have this personal space.
Yeah.
And it's being violated every single second. And you want to do something. People come, and you will see something wrong as well. People are cutting others, and you want to go and says, "What you doing, man?" Their sisters, they're shoving them, and you want to be the chivalry and all this stuff. You want to go and says, "What are you doing, bro?" Their sisters, come on, stop doing and all this stuff. And others and this and that. There's a lot of things that are happening. But remember, I felt so much peace and so much my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was at peak because of one thing I was doing. I was just busy in my azkar.
Right.
My azkar, and that was it. And I didn't care about it. I was with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a different parallel universe, and I did not care. And if you look at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the du'as that you mentioned, is this, that he was in that state. He was in that state all the time, where he had the understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which you see the Sahabas as well, the companions who loved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then with that love also loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to a level, you see their actions, which Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, after he was beaten, when people got to know he was Muslim, he was protecting the Prophet of Allah. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to visit Abu Bakr, who had fainted, who had collapsed, he didn't know what was happening, and now he's getting back to consciousness. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam goes visit his friend, out of the sadness, like, my friend had to go endure this because of me, right? And then he goes, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he gets up, he says, "Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un." I belong to Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do whatever with me. And this connection that they had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one of the biggest motivators for them to, stay away from a lot of addictions. Now, I understand somebody who is, I've been through in my life as well, the weaknesses. Of course, we were kids and before coming to Islam, and a lot of things we still deal with. That at times, Shaytan takes over our mind, and this idea that we're so far apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something both of you mentioned, is that we have to do our part. And one of the stories that highlights this part is the one who killed 99 people. The individual who killed 99 people, and he comes to the first imam, who is the abid, who's a worshiper. He says, "Hey, tell me, what can I do? Can Allah forgive me?" He's like, "Nope," and he kills him too. And you see the difference, that he goes to an abid who compares the others. So remember, when you're taking advice, take it to the right person. Don't ask anyone. That's why you see the people we have here. Who are they? They are in the position of authority, why they are, their education and such. The first person was an abid, the one who was a worshiper. So he compared himself to the situation the guy was in. It's like, you kill 99 people, I'm worshiping Allah every day. How Allah can forgive you and not me and all this stuff? So he's comparing himself, but he said no, and he kills him. The second one he goes to is a scholar, and the scholar gives him an advice. And the scholar tells him, "Hey, if you want to do this, Allah will forgive you. Allah can forgive you. But if you have to do it, you have to do your part. This is a town that gives you anxiety, or this is a town that is pushing you to fasad, the hookah bar, this and that, all that stuff. This is a town that is making you commit those actions if you can." And at that time, he had the means, move out of it.
So changing the environment and going to a good support system.
Right. And it's very important. Sister Dr. Afshana mentioned this very well, that yes, not everybody has the same resources. So it's very difficult for some to take the resources, but then you have to find ways to break apart You know, sometimes Shaytan was like, oh, because we're social creatures, some are more than others. Some like, oh, you're not gonna have these friends. People will call you a prude. People will call you this. People will call you that. And we get so much boggled down on that, subhanallah, and it's very difficult. But you have to, and something I was advising someone to today, Allah does not want perfection from us. Allah doesn't require perfection from us. He just wishes for us to try, so He then forgives us. The ultimate battle is the concept of just asking forgiveness every time we make a mistake. And this is lastly what I would add to is the fact, one of the ways, one of the strength, one of the statement that gave us strength is if you look at addictions or any habits that you're trying to break apart, especially when Shaitan is at play. You have two things. One, of course, you have to remember Shaitan is part of it. The second part, this is the formula. Know what's happening. It is a battle between you and Shaitan. You do something, you are trying to, protect your life and be in the path of the deen of Allah, the Shaitan will try to destroy that. He destroys it, you're negative, he's +1, you're -1. Now, what would you do? You ask Allah for forgiveness. And now the slates are zeros again. He's 0, you're 0. Now it's going to happen again. Now the battle is on. Now he wins again, you lose, but you ask Allah forgiveness. The question at the end, and this is what the scholars, the teachers have taught us, is who's going to win in the end? Because there's two ways it's going to happen. Either he's going to give up or you're going to give up.
Well, Shaitan doesn't
Either
give
he
up
gives
until
up.
You die. He does not give up until you die.
There are ways where we're taught, right, and he's find different ways to trap you. But at that particular thing, how he's going to give up is one of the ways is, let's say you make a mistake, which is the sunnah of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is to pray 2 rak'ah, immediately you make a mistake. Right. And then you raise it to 4 rak'ahs. Then 1 page of Quran. So every time you're making a mistake, and Shaitan is like, man, every time I make him do a mistake, he, in the end, makes more good deeds happen to him. So in him, he does not want you to have good deeds. You're now memorizing Quran because of a mistake. Now you are giving charity because of a mistake. Every time there's a mistake happen, you're like, you know what? I am going to do more good deeds. SubhanAllah, one time a halaqah was started just because I made a mistake. And I'm pretty sure he's pretty, angry about that part. But a halaqah started just because I made a mistake about something, and I was like, you know what? I'm not giving up. I'm going to move forward and do this. And subhanAllah, this is how one way Shaitan, you can beat in certain aspects. Now, Shaykhna, one thing I have learned is when you try to fight Shaitan off on certain things, he comes back stronger.
Yes, because now what you mentioned now is like, every time he persuades you to do a sin, you repent, so he gives up on that, but he's going to come from another gate, the gate of your ego. He will come and tell you, oh, look how good you became. Look how repentance make you. You were nobody. Now you are Sheikh Mamdouh. You are Brother Hassan. You are, people listening to you. You know how many likes? Every word you say, thousands of people hear. He's going to destroy you from that. And that's even stronger than the other one. That's why, Shaitan, he does not care much about the people who he make them sinners, because he knows that with one repentance, everything is erased. But he wants the people's method of thinking to be wrong. The approach of, and that's where Dr. Afshana was mentioning, it is, you have to prepare the way that your brain thinks so it can think productively. So you give that what it needs. Then that's where the Quran and all that, you have to do these things, even when it's hard on you in the beginning, because it saves you in the long run from yourself. Shaitan's worst, strongest weapon is when he comes from you admiring yourself. Addiction is for lower level people. I'm just telling you, to make you people sin and all of that. He is like doing this for people who desperate, who are not desperate, who will despair, who will give up fast. I'm a bad person, and there's no hope for me. But if somebody knows that even if I sin, it does not matter how big is my sin, Allah is bigger. Shaitan will not come to you from the sin issue. It is your nafs, Shaitan will come to you from fame, authority, like yourself. Look how sweet your voice is. Look how many people you changed their lives. That's why he becomes stronger, you know. And that's why I advise that book of Ibn al-Qayyim. The whole book is not about the traps of Shaytan. The last chapter only. The whole book, he is telling you what your heart is, what are the diseases, how you should fix the diseases, how you know Allah, the importance of Rasulullah, the importance of Quran. He gave you all this equipment, right? He introduced the whole field for you. Then he said, when you go in the field, that is the rules of the game. But he does not just tell you, here you go, just go in the field and the Shaitan will do this or that. So be careful, because Shaitan will not leave you until you breathe your last breath. That's why Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he said, I'm not saved from Shaitan until I put my, you know, khalas, I'm out of this dunya. You know, out of this dunya. That's why he was like unconscious. He went unconscious. And then they started saying, say la ilaha illallah. And he was saying, laysa ba'd, not yet, not yet. And they thought that he is, what happened, Imam Ahmad is rejecting. You know, then when he became conscious, he told them that I saw Shaitan standing in the corner, biting on his hand. And he said, oh, Ahmad, you escaped from me. You see his trick? You escaped from me. You were so good. I don't have authority. So Ahmad telling him, no, not yet. You're still my enemy. So you know that is the idea. He will come to you and he said, you won. Yani, even if this is the last card, they will tell you, you know, you're so good, you won. I lost 1%. The minute you believe that, he already won. So never give up to Shaitan, subhanallah.
Last two, then I will ask, and I will ask you two, and then if you have nothing else to add after that, that's fine. But these two, I will ask you, both of you, this question from your personal experience, because I think it's great to relate, you know, those who are going through, and of course we all have seen up and down in our lives. When somebody feels that, you know, our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deteriorated, and that heart has, not that you have forgotten Allah, but you feel like there's this cloud on top of you. It's a very hard place to move towards Allah with knowing, you know, understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has so much mercy and such, but it's very difficult for us to sometimes connect back. What is that one advice you would give that individual who is struggling, who's feeling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may not like you, or, you know, that Allah has kind of, you know, looked away from you, like what Taha in an example. What will be that one advice that you would give, both from your experiences, and that will conclude inshallah afterwards.
I'd love Dr. Afshana to give it as if I am your patient now and I'm telling you that. Forget I'm a sheikh. What would you tell me? Forget that. What would you tell me? Like I'm telling you, like I'm no good no more. Like every door is closed. I feel bad about myself. I'm hopeless. Like how you as a psychiatrist will tell me what
I would validate you and empathize with you. Like Sheikh, sounds like you're going through a really hard time right now, and that's something that we all go through. But first and foremost, I would ask, you know, so it sounds like perhaps there was a relationship at one point and now there's no relationship anymore. I would first ask, what worked for you before? What was it that brought you close to Allah? When was a time in your life that you felt the closest to Him? So in that time period, what were you doing? Who were you with? You know, my dad told me this all the time. He's like, you know, you can, what is that analogy? Put a drop of cologne in the ground and you won't make the ground smell good. So it's really important. Well, anyway, so just like who you're surrounded by is very important. And so if you're a person who feels closer to Allah when you're around righteous people, then find good company. You know, if you like to be alone in the masjid, then, you know, go to the masjid, wake up for tahajjud. If you like to read, if you like to listen to videos, you know, what is it that brings your heart? Because everybody finds Allah differently. So I would ask, what is it for you personally that helps you feel close to Him? Was it, you know, when you hung out with this friend, you know, you felt close? When you listened to so-and-so sheikh or listened to so-and-so video, what is it that helps you? And so that's where I would start.
MashaAllah. So what would you say, like, that you should evaluate in different aspects of your life? Like what made me happy physically is halal or haram, I should do that. What made me happy like and emotionally, like that. What made me in a good relationship with a person, like this is when I go to the masjid, with a place, with the thing that you have to evaluate everything around. Dig deep and find it.
Definitely. If you are in a very difficult place spiritually, there's probably other things going on. You know, what is it that is stressing you out? What is it bringing you down? What are the challenges that you're experiencing in your life? And so trying to find ways to cope with all of these different things. You know, it's, you know, we've all heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If somebody can't, you know, bring food home, you know, and put food on the table, then, you know, it could be difficult for them to think about, oh, I need to read my daily Quran. No, they're going to worry about their family, you know. So, yeah, absolutely. Addressing all the different challenges and all the different struggles in their life is the best way to go about it.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. I would add, Brother Hassan, you know, the Islamic perspective. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم وأنيبوا إلى ربكم وأسلموا له. End of Surah Allah Azza wa Jalla said, "O my servants who transgressed all the limits, never despair from Allah's mercy. Surely He is the one who forgives every single sin. He is the forgiving of merciful, and always come back to Allah Azza wa Jalla." Allah Azza wa Jalla took it upon Himself. He said, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. My mercy encompasses everything. I'll write it for those who believe in me and those who do the right things. فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. Those who give and those who pray. So I finish with that. Like, you know, never say that my sin is big. Say my sin is bigger. Say Allah is bigger. I'm sorry. Say my sin is too big. It's never too big for Allah. The worst of sins, when one of the scholars asked, is to think that Allah cannot forgive your sin. You know, the worst of sins, to think Allah. This does not mean go ahead and do sin. No, feel bad, feel guilty, yeah, but never feel that this sin cannot be erased. Allah will erase it, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah does not change. Remember, Brother Hassan, the series we did? Allah will not change unless you change yourself, right? Change comes from within. You have to show something that I am ready. Ya Allah, guide me. At least make the dua, you know. Ya Allah, guide me. Then guidance will come. But you have to take science and education again into account. You know, like as I always advise people, 10, 15 years ago, not so far young, 10, 15 years ago, telling people to go to a therapist or a psychiatrist for a general evaluation was like a big taboo, you know, like it's an issue. Oh, I have nothing wrong. I did not tell you have anything wrong. I'm telling you, just go talk to somebody who have knowledge. They might tell you, you are pre-depression, like pre-diabetes kind of, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I did not know the pre-diabetes before. I know that either you are diabetic or you're not diabetic. That's how we were grown, right? Either you're the person diabetic or not diabetic. Diabetic means sick. I'm not diabetic means I'm healthy. But now they created the term that they do not want you to get to it, Brother Hassan. It's too late after you got it. You know, so that's why when I see a person complaining all the time, worrying all the time, I say, please go talk to a therapist. Right. Go get evaluated. I got evaluated one time and they told me, you have extreme anxiety, Sheikh. What are you doing to yourself? You know? Mm-hmm. And I had to take some medication for a while. Trust me, like for about 3 months until, you know, things calm down. And then they told me to change everything around, you know, that my work schedule, my relationship, I have to reevaluate my family relationship, whom I hang out with, like Dr. Afshana mentioned, what are the books I'm reading, busy yourself with something, do some hobbies. It's not everything preaching and leading salah and doing that. You have to do something else, right? So this anxiety level goes down and start exercising and all that. So I want to finish on that note. Islam is therapy, Quran, physical, emotional, spiritual, scientific, Islamic, all one package. And alhamdulillah that, you know, wallahi, this pandemic brought us together, you know, more than ever. Like people online now and talk and we complete each other. I'm very, very happy that I'm seeing Dr. Afshana talking about Islam and I'm talking about psychology. So it is a good thing. It is a good thing. That's what we need. We need imams who know more of these fields, and we need those professionals who know more about Islam. Then, you know, our community are safe, inshallah. Well, jazakumullah khair, Brother Hassan, for giving me that chance. That's what I have to say.
Any last remark before we end?
Yeah, I also wanted to add the, you know, Allah says, I am as you see me, right? I am as you see me. So I think first and foremost, always remembering his mercy. And like Sheikh said, that he's greater than any sin that you could possibly do. Yeah, and then there was something else I wanted to add in, but I forgot.
So I can let
But
us
that's a
know. We'll
blessing,
send
you
it
know,
out.
we forget sometimes.
Yeah.
But Jazakumullah khair. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan then. We appreciate Dr. Afshana for you joining us from all the way to
Oh, I remember. Go back to the basics, right? So a lot of times it can be very overwhelming, and you know, you ask for a personal perspective, right? We can think, oh, you know, I can't memorize the Quran, I can't pray the Hajj, I can't do all this. But start where you can. Go back to the basics. Are you praying at all? Are you reading at all? You know, it doesn't have to be something monumental. Baby steps, and inshallah, you know, if you walk, what Allah say, if you walk to me, I run to you. And so you just have to take that first step, and that's in any kind of change in any aspect of your life. Okay, I'm done.
Khalas, any last remarks, Shaykhna? We're done.
Thank you, Brother Hassan.
So again, we thank you, Dr. Afshana, as a community, for you joining us today. I know, subhanAllah, weekday, getting time, it was difficult, but alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. They'll reward you immensely.
Thanks again for having me.
Jazakallah khair, and jazakallah khair, Shaykhna, for joining us as well. And that's it. Inshallah, we'll have a third session, which will be the final session on Thursday, which is probably the day we start Tarawih, inshallah, at home.
Inshallah. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak to you, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. Then we'll end. Shaykhna, please do the honors, and we end today, inshallah.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to bring us back together, to bring us back to His masjid, to His houses. We ask Allah to remove any sin, any shirk, any negativity from our hearts and our souls. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to brighten our hearts and our faces with the Quran. We ask Allah to make us His slaves, to be worthy to be His slaves. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to fill our hearts with love to each other, with care about each other, with concern to each other. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to remove any trace of hasad or envy or jealousy from our hearts toward each other. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us, our families, our children, our community. We ask Allah to save us from the diseases. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to remove this pandemic away. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give barakah in our rizq, in our ilm, in our knowledge. وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله.
Jazakallah khairan. We end with this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
السلام ورحمة الله.